Okay, hi everyone. I'm going to straight away show you how to answer the questions in your tutorial 3. Okay, so let's go first to question 1. Alright, so what you are given here is the quantity supplied and the quantity demanded for each for different price level. Okay, so you are given individual quantity supplied, which are P and Q. P and Q are actually individual supplier. J and K are individual consumers. So what you have to do in order for you to find the market supply and market demand is for you to add the individual supply and individual demand. Okay, so for quantity supplied, for you to get the market supply, which is P, you add with Q. So what you have to do here is you add the quantity supplied by P and the quantity supplied by Q. Alright, so what you have here, okay, so 150 you add with 50. Okay, what you're going to get here is 200. So you put here 200. That is for question A here. Find the market demand and market supply. Okay, so what you have to do here next is add 95 with 65. So you're going to get 160. 75 plus 45, you're going to get 120. And then 80, 40, and this one is supposed to be 0 lah. 0 plus 0. Okay, so that is for your market supply. You already get your market supply here for different price level. So now you're going to find the market demand by individual J and individual K. So you add these two demand by these two individuals. So the first one is going to get 0. And then 35 plus 25. Okay, the market demand at 25 ringgit is 60 here. And then 120, 180, 240, and the last one here is 300. Okay, so now you get your market supply, both market supply as well as your market demand. So once you get your market supply and market demand, you can use the information to draw the demand curve and supply curve. So I have here a graph. I've constructed the y-axis and x-axis. Okay, so what you have to do here is you do the scaling. Okay, to do the scaling, you have to refer to your information in your table here. So the price here, the gap or the scale is 5 to 5. So you do the scaling here 5, 5, meaning you will start with 5. This is 0, and then you will start with 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, and the last one is 30. So this is your price. Okay, so I put here price, which is in RM. Okay, your y-axis, and your x-axis is supposed to be for your market demand and market supply. So you are going to draw both market demand curve and market supply curve in your graph here. Okay, on the same graph. So what you're going to do is you're going to look at the figures here. So what is the highest figure? That is 300. Okay, here 300. Oops. Okay, so that is your highest figure, and your smallest is 0. So and you also need to look at the scale that you are going to do for your graph. Okay, so since your highest figure is 300, it's nice for you to do a 50 scale. So you start with 50 here, and then 100, and then 150, 200, and 250. The last one is 300. I choose 50 because it's easy for you to do the small, to find the small point here. Okay, so here you get here 10, 20, 30 and 40. So it's easy for you to find the small scale here. Okay, so I recommend you to do a 50-50 scale. Okay. Alright, so this is 0. Okay, so now you can do your plotting. Okay, so how to do the plotting? You start with the first curve, which is your the supply curve. Okay, the market supply curve, which is here. So you are going to look at the price and the market supply. So when the price is at 5 ringgit, okay, or you can start from the top. When the price is 30, the quantity supply is 200. So this is your point here. And when the price is 25, the quantity supply is 160. This is actually from the table. You can refer to your table. And when the when the price is 20, the quantity supply is 120, which is here. When the price is 15, the quantity supply is 80, which is here. And when the price is 10 ringgit, the quantity supply is 40. When the price is 5 ringgit, the quantity supply is 0. So you already have the points here. So what you need to do here is you have to connect the points lah. Okay, so you draw a line, a straight line connecting the points. That is where you get your supply curve, your market supply. So label your supply as 0, your initial supply curve. Okay, now next is for you to draw the market demand, which is here. So you look at the price and then you look at the market demand. Okay, so when the price is 30, the market demand is 0, which is here. When the price is 25, the market demand is 60, which is here. When the price is 20, the market demand is 120, which is the equilibrium here. When the price is 15, the market demand is 180. Okay, 180, which is here. And when the price is 10, the market demand is 240. When the price is 5, the market demand is 300. So you have all the points. So what you need to do is, again, you connect the points to get the demand curve. Okay, so this is your demand curve. Label as D0. So you have your market supply as 0 and market demand. So you answered the second question here. Draw a graph to show the market equilibrium. Okay, so where is your market equilibrium? You have to show lah, as the question requested you to show. So this is the market equilibrium. You put it as E0. So you have the supply, you have the demand, and you have the market equilibrium, E0. Okay. Okay, so before I continue, I actually forgot to label this x-axis here, which is supposed to be quantity, okay, in units. Don't put quantity supplied or quantity demand. Okay, you just put the general term, which is quantity, because you draw both supply and demand on the same graph. So put quantity as your x-axis. Okay, so now you answer question C, which requires you to find the equilibrium price and quantity from the market. You can actually get the answer for C from the table here. Okay, so the table here, you get the equilibrium at the price of 20 ringgit. Okay, because here what you get is, when the price is 20 ringgit, the quantity supply is 120 and the quantity demanded is also 120. So this is the point where you get the equilibrium. Okay, because the quantity supply and quantity demand is the same. Okay, or you can also find from the graph. Okay, so what you do is you drag here from the equilibrium, you drag, and this is your equilibrium price, and then from the market equilibrium you drag downward, you get here 120, which is your equilibrium quantity. Okay, so you can do both from the table or you can find from the graph. Okay, so your answer here is supposed to be equilibrium price is RM20, equilibrium quantity is 120 units. Okay, question D. If the selling price is RM25, is there any surplus or shortage? By how many units? So this is a situation where you are going to look at what happens at RM25 ringgit, or what happens if the product is sold at RM25 ringgit. So just now, you have actually determined the equilibrium price, which is 20 ringgit. Okay, so this is the market equilibrium. Now, in the question, it says that if the product is sold at 25 ringgit, so 25 ringgit is here. So you drag. Okay, so you are going to get here the supply, and here is the demand. Okay, so supply is here 160, demand is 60. Okay, or you can also get from the table here. Okay, the price is 25 ringgit, so at 25 ringgit the quantity supply is 160, the quantity demand is 60. So what happens here? Quantity supplied is more than quantity demanded. Okay, quantity supply is 160, quantity demanded is 60. So you are going to get surplus. Okay, quantity supply is more than quantity demanded, so you get surplus. Okay, so your answer here should be surplus. You are going to get surplus by how many units? Okay, 160 units, which is the quantity supplied, minus 60 units, which is the quantity demanded. Okay, so this one minus this one. Alright, so you get here is supposed to be 100 units. So your answer should be surplus by 100 units. Okay, lebihan sebanyak 100. Okay, sebab harga tinggi. Okay, next is for you to find the consumer surplus and producer surplus. Okay, so you still remember your consumer surplus and producer surplus is actually the triangle area below the demand curve. Meanwhile, the consumer surplus is the triangle above the supply curve. Okay, so I'm going to clear the graph first so that you can see clearly. Okay. Alright. So, this is your equilibrium, 20 ringgit. Equilibrium price, and this is your equilibrium quantity, which is 120. Okay, so the area of your area of consumer surplus is above the equilibrium, below the demand. So this is the area of your consumer surplus. Meanwhile, the area for producer surplus is down here, below the market equilibrium, above the supply curve. So this is your producer surplus. So what you are going to do here is you are going to find the area of the triangles. Okay, so you find the consumer surplus first. Okay, so you do your calculation here. For consumer surplus is the area of triangle 1/2 times height. Okay, so the height is here 30, from 20 to 30, so that should be 30 minus 20, and the base is from 0 to 120. Okay, so you do your calculation here. The height is 30 minus 20 and the base is 120. Okay, so when you calculate, what you are going to get is RM 600 of consumer surplus. Okay, producer surplus, same thing. You are going to find the area of triangle. The height is from here to here, so 20 minus 5. The base is the same lah, from 0 to 120. Okay, so here 20 minus 5 times 120. So what you are going to get is RM 900, your producer surplus. Okay. Okay, next is for question F. The government decided to impose RM 5 ringgit tax to supplier for each unit of the product. Assume that the tax burden is shared equally between producers and consumers. Show the movement of the supply curve after the implementation of tax. So it says that the government imposed RM 5 ringgit tax to supplier, and the burden of tax is shared equally between consumers and producers. Meaning, okay, for you to understand the statement here, it says that government give tax of RM 5 and the tax is shared equally between consumers and producers. So producers pay half, consumers pay another half. So consumer will pay RM 2.50 ringgit, producer will pay another 250 cents. So what we are going to get is the new price for the product after the tax, which is additional 2.50 ringgit imposed by the producer. Okay, so your new price, your old price before tax, or the old equilibrium price was RM 20. Okay, so before this, the price is RM 20 equilibrium. But after implementation of tax, the new price for the product will be RM 20 plus tax RM 2.50 ringgit. Okay, so the new price should be RM 22.50 ringgit, your new equilibrium price. So when you draw the graph, okay, what you are going to do is you are going to show the impact of tax. Okay, so sales tax increase, supply will decrease. This is what you learn from topic 2. Okay, when government increase tax, supply will decrease. So what happens is your supply curve will shift to the left. Okay, when you draw the graph, your supply curve will shift to the left. So you are going to draw a new supply curve on the graph. What you need to do is you find the new equilibrium price first. Okay, the new equilibrium price is 22.50 ringgit. So 21, 22 should be here lah. 22.50 ringgit. So you drag from there until you touch here. So this is where you are going to draw the new supply curve. Okay, your new supply curve will intersect at this new equilibrium price. Okay, so you draw it should be parallel with your previous supply curve, your initial supply curve. Okay, so label that supply as S1. So your supply curve shifts to the left, and the new market equilibrium is E1. The new equilibrium price is 22 ringgit and 50 cent. Okay, so you can actually now ignore the previous supply curve. Okay, alright, so now let's look at the question back. Okay, the question requires you to show the movement of the supply curve. So you have already showed that the supply curve has shift to the left, okay, after the implementation of tax. Okay, so now what is the new equilibrium price and quantity? The new equilibrium price and quantity you can actually obtain from the graph. So you already have the equilibrium price 22 ringgit and 50 cent. Okay, and the new equilibrium quantity, okay, you need to drag from here downward, you will get 90 here. Okay, so your answer here should be the new equilibrium price is price after tax, RM 22 ringgit and 50 cent. The new equilibrium quantity is 90 units you obtain from the table just now. Okay, now let's look at question H. Okay, question H here says that it requires you to determine whether there is surplus or shortage if the producers keep selling at the old equilibrium price. Okay, so the old equilibrium price was RM20, and the new equilibrium price after tax is RM22 ringgit and 50 cent. So if you look at the graph, okay, I have cleared the graph, so there is no longer S0, just to make it clear for you. Okay, so you have here the new equilibrium price after tax 22 ringgit and 50 cent. But the question says that the producer keeps selling at the old equilibrium price, which is 20 ringgit. So what you have to do is you drag this price, okay, until it touches both supply and demand. Okay, so you have here the demand, okay, the quantity demanded, and here is the quantity supplied. So the quantity demanded is 120 and the quantity supplied is 70. Okay, so you have the demand bigger than the supply because the seller is selling the product at a price lower than the equilibrium price. This is supposed to be the equilibrium price. Okay, this is the price that the seller sells. So there will be what we call as shortage. Okay, so there will be shortage by how many units? 120 quantity demanded minus 70 units of quantity supplied. So there should be 50 units of products shortage in the market. Okay, this one. Look at this point. This is where quantity demanded is more than quantity supplied. So there will be shortage by 50 units. Okay. Alright, so that is for question H. Okay, question I. Okay, calculate the consumer and producer surplus after tax. Okay, so now you will have a new area of triangle. Okay, I will clear this first to show you the area of consumer surplus and producer surplus. this one should be 20. This one should be 90. This is 100 here. Okay. So this one. Okay. So the area of consumer surplus is now different. It is supposed to be here, below the demand curve, above the equilibrium price. This is consumer surplus after tax. And then the producer surplus is the area of triangle below the equilibrium, above the supply. Okay, so when you want to find the area of triangle, okay, you have to use the formula for triangle. Okay, when you want to find the area of triangle. Okay, so for consumer surplus, okay, consumer surplus, the area of triangle should be 1/2 times height times base. So the height for consumer surplus is from here to here, from 30 to 22 ringgit and 50 cent, and the base is from 0 to 90. Okay, so when you want to calculate, okay, the height is 30 minus 22 ringgit and 50 cent, the base is 90. Okay, so what you get for consumer surplus is RM 337 ringgit and 50 cent. Okay, and for producer surplus, okay, it is the area here, the green area here, in which the height is from here to here, this one. So what is the point here? That is 11. The price is 11 ringgit. Okay, so 22 ringgit and 50 cent minus 11 ringgit. And the base is the same lah, from 0 to 90. Okay, so to find the producer surplus, use the formula for triangle area. So the height is 22 ringgit and 50 cent minus 11 ringgit times 90. It should be RM 517.50 cent. Okay, so you have to be careful with here when you want to find the height for producer surplus. Okay, so you have to make sure that your curve, your new supply curve here, is constructed accurately so that you get here 11 plus minus 11.50 or 10.50. Okay, but the answer should be 11. Okay, your graph, your supply curve here should touch at 11 ringgit of price. Okay, for you to find the height here. Alright, so now let's proceed to question 2. Okay, so question 2 here is a bit unique because you are not given a set of data. Instead, you are given here two equations. First is for the equation for quantity demanded, okay, the curve for quantity demanded, and the equation for the quantity supplied curve. Okay, so what you have to do is, question A, it requires you to find the equilibrium price and quantity. So what you need to do is you have to put both equations at equilibrium. So you have to remember the condition for equilibrium is quantity supplied, it must equal to quantity demanded. Okay, quantity supplied must equal to quantity demanded. Okay, so you take this equation and you put it in equilibrium. So the equation for quantity supplied is negative 20 plus P. P is the price. Okay, and the equation for quantity demanded is 100 minus 2P. So what you need to do here is you solve for the unknown, which is the price. Okay, so P, negative 2P, you bring to the left, it will be plus 2P, positive, and then 100. So this negative 20, you bring to the right side, it will be plus 20. Okay, so here you get 3P, here you get 120. So P equals to RM 40. That is the equilibrium price. So now you have the price. So what you need to do next is you find the equilibrium quantity. So you can actually choose either one of these equations here. Let's say you choose to use the equation for quantity demanded. So the quantity demanded equals to 100 minus 2P. Okay, so quantity demanded equals to 100 minus 2. You replace P with RM 40. So you will get the quantity demanded is 20 units. Or you can also use the other equation, which is quantity supplied. You will get the same answer, which is negative 20 plus P. Negative 20 plus P is 40. You replace P with 40. And you will also get 20 units. So same answer. Okay, so you do just one of the equation. You can choose one only. Okay, so you get the quantity, the equilibrium quantity equals to 20 when quantity demanded is equal to quantity supplied. So this is the equilibrium quantity. Okay, next, question B. Graph the demand and supply curve and label the equilibrium price and quantity. So since you are not given a set of data in this question, you just need to sketch your graph. Okay, so when you sketch, okay, you do the X and Y axis as usual. Okay. Alright, and then you label your graph as this one is quantity, this one is price. Okay, so you draw the demand curve and supply curve. Okay, so when you draw, because next question you are going to find consumer and producer surplus, so make sure your demand and supply curve touches the P or the Y axis. So let's say you draw the supply curve, you should start from here, 0. Okay, so that is your supply, and you draw another curve which is demand also touching the Y axis. Okay, just sketch and label. So this is 0. This is your supply curve and this is your demand curve. Label the equilibrium price and quantity. So this is your market equilibrium. Let's say I put it as E0. Okay, and equilibrium price, just now you have calculated in A, 40 ringgit. Equilibrium quantity is 20 units from question A. So you answered question B already. Complete. Okay, now let's look at question C. You have to calculate the consumer and producer surplus, meaning you are looking for the area of triangle here. This is consumer surplus. Okay, and another one is the area for producer surplus. Okay, but you don't have enough information, right, to find the triangle. So what you need to do is you need to find this point and this point in order for you to find the area of triangle. So what is actually this point? This is actually the point where quantity is 0, okay, and the price is what you have to find. So this is quantity equals to 0, price is unknown. This one is also when quantity supplied. This is quantity demanded. Okay, quantity supplied equals to 0, price is unknown. Okay, so what you need to do is you find the value of P here. Okay, what is the value of P here? So this point right here, okay, is actually a point that touches the demand curve, and this is where the quantity demanded equals to 0. So you can actually use the equation when quantity demanded equals to 0, what is the price? Okay, so you use the equation for quantity demanded. Okay, so now the equation for quantity demanded is 100 minus 2p, and you equal the quantity demanded as 0. Okay, so the quantity demanded is now 0, so you can actually find the value of p. So you leave negative 2p, you bring negative 100 to the right, and then p will become Rm50. Okay, so this is actually Rm50, the point here. Quantity 0, price Rm50. Okay, to find the point here, this is where you have to put quantity supplied as 0, because this point touches the supply curve. Okay, so what is the price? So you have to take the equation of supply, which is negative 20 plus P equals to 0. So P equals to Rm20. Okay, so here, this is where you get Rm20 ringgit. Okay, so to find, now you have the information needed in the question. You have Rm50 and Rm20. You can actually find the area of triangle here. Okay, your data is now complete. Okay, so the area of consumer surplus is the top one. Okay, so the height is 50 minus 40, and the base is 0 to 20. So 1 over 2 times height, which is 50 minus 40, times base, which is 20. So the consumer surplus actually equals to Rm100. Okay, now you have to find the area of producer surplus. So producer surplus, use the area of triangle, 1 over 2 times height is from here to here. Okay, so 40 minus 20. So you times with 20. So what you will get is Rm200 for for producer surplus. Alright, so that answers question C.